Hey everybody, this is Steve with another episode of Keep 'em Rollin'. In fact, this is day 4 of the Keep 'em Rollin' marathon that we've got going here. And I've had some requests for different things. One of those was to show some of my Navy items. And I do have a pretty extensive Navy collection, so I'm just going to kind of go through just a couple of them here. I will be quite honest with you. It has been a long day and I am dragging right now. On that note, I did have a different video planned for tonight, but that is actually going to be tomorrow night. I'm going to plug that here. If you are a fan of the United States Marine Corps and if you are a fan of Iwo Jima, tomorrow night we will focus on one United States Marine by the name of Walter Leslie Rock and his story, and it is amazing. I got to meet this guy, and just, it's going to be a really cool episode. So it's going to be kind of lengthy, and I was all ready to do it tonight, and I am so tired. So we're going to go on and do some Navy things tonight. So I'm going to start off with this right here. This is kind of a really just cool, unusual piece. Sorry for the shadow there. I do have it in a shadow box, hence why there might be a little bit of glare and you're getting some of the light reflection here. But what this is a few years ago, we had a building in our downtown that was undergoing remodeling. And this building had at one time been, it was known as Incorporation Hall. It had been like the Township Hall and then the first City Hall. It was quite an old building. I mean, very, very old building. And then over time, as it changed its roles, it turned into a JCPenney's department store in the late 30s and 40s. And then it turned into a couple other things, and its kind of life as a soup restaurant and bookstore. Really neat building. And it had been remodeled extensively, except upstairs in the second story in the front used to be the old JCPenney stock room, and during World War II, a lot of the workers there, the young staff, stock boys and stock girls, would stencil the walls. There was just a boatload of caricatures and names and this type of patriotic, United States Navy things on the wall. Well, as I said, the building was due to be remodeled, and I was called in to take a look at this graffiti. I was able to photograph a lot of it, and they said basically that it was all coming down, that in the remodel they couldn't save any of it, so it was going to be, just obliterated. Unfortunately, the whole building ended up obliterated. They started the deconstruction and then restoration. They found that it was in such bad shape from so many very strange remodelings over the years that it couldn't be saved, so they had to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it. But long story short, I was able to salvage a little bit of the graffiti. Now, unfortunately, most of this graffiti it's plaster, and it was on brick walls. And being that it was plaster on brick walls, it was really just no way to get it off the wall. There was a couple of really cool aircraft renderings and stuff, but you just couldn't get it off the wall without completely and utterly destroying it. This was one exception. I have one other that I'll show at a future date, but this was one that I was able to pull off the wall, and I almost had it done when it cracked, unfortunately. You can see it's cracked again just as it's dried out over the years and such. So I got it down, I got it home, I was able to get it into this display case, and that's where it now lives. I don't want to do any restoration on it. I don't really want to mess with it, just because anytime you touch it, it's just going to, crumble even more. But what a cool piece of kind of home front United States Navy artwork, folk art, if you want to call it that. I really like it because I know the building. I was able to retrieve it on my own, which was fun. It's a piece of my city's history, so it's neat all around. And I think somebody in 1942, 1943 drew this. They were either going into the Navy, or maybe they had a family member that was in the Navy, and so they drew this up. So this kicks off our Navy tour here. Now, the next set of items is something that I got recently, and the gentleman, just a couple items, but they're just cool items nonetheless. The gentleman was a member of the Seabees, and just 3 pieces of paper that were saved from his entire experience. It's interesting how some stuff gets thrown away and lost, and other stuff gets kept and just manages to survive. I did go out and purchase, you can see it's in a kind of mylar type sleeve. I found this actually at my local baseball card / coin shop. They have a bunch of these in different sizes, and it was only a couple bucks, but it's a great way to put a newspaper into something where you can now handle it. It's rigid, so I could stand this up to display it, and it allows me to look at this and enjoy it without having to unfold or worry that it gets set down wrong and something gets set on it and it gets ruined. So this one here is dated July 29th, 1945. It's the carrier planes resume attack. It's the Philippine Press. But what I like here is this middle article. Let me get my hand out of the way there. There we go. Plane mishap rocks New York Midtown. This is the article about the aircraft that struck the Empire State Building. And for those of you who may not know, yeah, I think it was a B-24, B-17. I can't remember which. It was a big plane. I don't think it was a 25, but it slammed into the Empire State Building, and some civilians were killed. The crew was killed, but look it up. It's a really interesting and sad story. Also with this was this really cool, just kind of single sheet. It's called The Scoop. It's from the Seabees Special Edition. And when you look at it here, it's basically this kind of caricature. Obviously, this is the U.S. right here, the Big Four. And then down here, we have the poor Japanese boxer who has been knocked out by the Big Four. And you can see that they're actually throwing in the towel here, to end it. If you see like Russia, United States, Great Britain, China, Japanese government, Wheeze was robbed. I love that. Wheeze was robbed. So, and then down here, Japan surrenders. Flash, 7:10 Wednesday morning, the war is over. President Truman just announced that Japan has accepted the Allies' surrender terms. So, really just, he said that obviously because that was an important day. The war is over with. This is the announcement for it. And I thought this deserved it. It's also in one of the plastic sleeves here. So, just a cool piece. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but the neat thing about this, and in my display episode, I didn't talk a whole lot about this, but what I like to do in my room is, I talked about things resting, taking things down and so forth, and I do like to rotate things. So, I might have stuff up for 2, 3, 4 months, and then something like this comes in, and I will pull something else down and put it away for a while and put this up. So it's nice to have things like this. I have an area in my closet where I just have framed items, and I can pull them out and lean them up where I want to, just to change the ambiance of the room. So now the third thing, which I thought was really cool, is this right here. Pacific Ocean. You can see he kind of colored in on the Pacific Ocean. There's his name right there. This is January 5th, 1944. He's in Brisbane, Australia. But what's cool is this is Pacific Ocean map. And it's a fantastic, he picked this up while in Australia, but I'm not going to open it all the way up just because it's massive and I don't want to damage it, but I just want to get in here so you can just kind of, I guess we're going to open it all the way up. I just want you to see, look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? The Loyalty Islands, New Caledonia, up here. Sorry, my hand's in the way. Let me try and reorient the light there. We have Fiji, Samoa, Santa Cruz, and oh, here's Truck. Where's Truck? I just had it. Oh, come on. The camera here dealing. Yeah, there we go. Bring it over this way. Trying to orient myself. Sorry. There's Truck Lagoon. And all of these are just, the major areas. There's Saipan, Tahiti. The Philippines are on here. Australia's on here. It's just a beautiful, once again, my hand is shadowing it. Sorry about that. But just a beautiful map. And I actually looked about having it framed. I started out by just looking for a poster frame. And due to its size, I guess I can just kind of unfold it so you can get an idea that it is a beautiful colored map. And it's quite large. And I thought about having it, getting a poster frame for it. But the poster frames are just not big enough. Even the largest poster frame will not fit, and I don't want to trim it at all. So I may have to have it framed. The only problem for those of you who have done this, you know what I'm going to say here, but having something framed is monumentally expensive. I mean, it is a huge investment. So you have to make sure you're framing the things that you really, really like. Now, I like this because I like the detail that it gives. And I thought this would be really cool to have hanging in my room just for reference points. So if I'm reading something about Truck Lagoon, I can say, oh, Truck Lagoon, let me go over to the map. It's on the wall. Oh, there it is. Now I can envision how it looks and so forth and so on, or Iwo Jima that we're going to talk about tomorrow. So just a neat find. For now, it'll just stay with this grouping and we'll go from there. If I get a little extra cash here in the future, maybe I will have it framed. I do want to refrain. I mean, it's in great shape. It's made on a paper that's a little more, I want to say waxy in content, so it folds and unfolds very smoothly. But as with anything like this, the more you unfold it and fold it and unfold it, let me try that again. The more that you fold it and unfold it, the more chances that it will begin to split at all of these fold lines. So it's better to try and get it flat. So, all right, the next item that I want to share with you is an item that I got just recently, kind of before all this craziness began. And it was an item that came from a fellow collector. I met up with him a few Saturdays ago. He called me up and asked if I was doing anything, and just happened to have some free time. So went over to his house, hung out for a while, and he told me he was kind of looking to get rid of a few things. He's transitioning his collection. He has some great stuff coming in and he needs to make room. And this item right here was one thing that he was willing to part with. And I have been looking for one of these for quite a long time. What we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a United States Navy World War II Chief Petty Officer's visor cap. And as I said, I've been looking for one of these and they are just hard to find. This is in the blue. It's got the blue cover on it. They also were in white and they were in khaki, and I think they even did them in the green as well. And oftentimes you'd buy the covers and you could swap them out. So, but this one is in blue. I love it. It is in just excellent condition. Now, one of the questions that comes up is how can you tell that this is World War II? Well, let's go over that real quick. How you can tell, you start off here with the visor. And looking at the visor, you can see it's just got a kind of warm look to it. Okay, it's not super shiny. World War II and just post-war era caps, the visors are kind of this warm leather. When you get out of that era, it becomes that really patent leather, that real shiny leather. So that's one indicator. If you look at the edge of the cap here, the edging is also that real kind of dull leather. Sometimes they call this a tape here along the edge. Once you get out of World War II, once again, it becomes a very shiny, almost plastic type edging. Now, if we look at the device is a drop end device. This was a device that was used all the way up until, I want to say 1946, I believe, somewhere in there. After that, they switched over for a very, very short time to the kind of semicircle device. You can see how it's got that curve to it. And then after that, they went, I believe, in the early 50s to the completely straight across device. So a drop-end device is a good indicator of a World War II cap. Now, the other thing is, it is pinned directly to the cap. That is a huge indicator of a World War II cap, is that it's pinned to the cap. After the war, they went to the coffin front for the device. See that big kind of patch behind here? That's known as the coffin, okay? And it's actually sewn right to the hat band, and the device is actually attached to this rather than being attached to the cap. So you can see that when you look at this cap, it has all the characteristics of a World War II cap. The visor is rather dusty, sorry about that. The visor is not an extremely shiny leather. The tape around the edge is getting to be a little bit shinier. Everything else about this cap screams World War II except it's got this coffin device. I still like this hat a lot. I really do. But this one here, let's go back to it and you can see the difference. Pinned right to the cap itself. And if you look here at the hat band, there is no stitching where someone decided to convert it over. Okay. Now, another thing to look for is on the inside. If we look at the inside of this visor, you can see, let me back that off a bit, you can see it's a green color. That's a good indicator of a World War II era cap. This one here is also a green color on the underside. Another thing to look for is the sweat liner. The sweat liner is an oilcloth sweat liner. Let me zoom in here, you can see kind of the, see if I can get that, see that kind of cross hatching. It is not a plastic sweat liner. This one here, you can also see that it's a very much an oilcloth sweat liner. Oilcloth sweat liners are very typical of the World War II caps. You can also see that it only runs down the center of the cap. It's not filling the whole interior of the hat. Post-war, you start to see that switch over to the full interior versus just this kind of across piece, if you will. So, also got some nice marking there. Lewis from Memphis. So is it a Dunlap from New York, or is it a Lewis from Memphis? Yeah, we will never know. So, beautiful, beautiful cap. Okay, the last item I'm going to share with you is hanging in the closet here, so the lighting isn't exactly spectacular. I actually used the old-fashioned, you can't see it there, the old-fashioned bulbs in here just to kind of give it a little more ambiance. What we have here is a Navy Chief Petty Officer's dress jacket for someone who was a storekeeper. And this jacket came with the hat. They didn't go together, but he had them displayed together, and they look really nice together. It's a World War II or thereabouts jacket. And when I say thereabouts is because unless you have a date on it, there's always a possibility that the jacket is just post-war. This one here, though, it has all the characteristics of a World War II coat. What you want to look for are the small buttons. You see they're just tiny buttons on this jacket. Plus, there's 8 of them. So you have 4, and then you have 4 for that double-breasted look. The tag on the inside here is just pretty much a generic tag. It's not a good indicator. And then the ribbons on here are the World War II ribbons. They are the oversized ribbons. You have Good Conduct, you have American Campaign, and American Defense. So nothing spectacular, but just nice oversized ribbons. Plus, I love that bullion rate. I mean, just check out the thickness of that bullion. It is absolutely and utterly gorgeous. And I do not have a Navy Chief's jacket in my collection, so I do now, and I'm quite pleased. Will I add more? Who knows? He had another set that I really liked. He wants to hang on to it for now, but you never know. You know, as he gets new things, maybe that is something that will come my way also. So, anyways, we're going to let's try that again. Anyways, we're going to conclude here, and just remember tomorrow's video is going to be Iwo Jima, hopefully, and about the experiences of one Walter Leslie Rock, United States Marine Corps. But on that note, I hope everybody is doing well. Stay safe. Thank you for watching, and remember to keep 'em rolling.